Hello everyone and welcome to today's video where we are going to be working on SQLZOO questions again. Today we're going to be working on the Nobel quiz portion that comes after the select from Nobel portion of questions. Go ahead and practice that before you take this quiz to get a better understanding of this table, its columns, and its values. What I will say ahead of time is that this is going to be a little bit different than what we've done before. It's really honestly giving you questions that are going to be more so in the select and select statements. If you want, you can go ahead and try this portion and then come back to this quiz, and I think you'll have much better knowledge to tackle this quiz, because without that it can be a little bit challenging, because what I've noticed is it is showing you queries that you have not run into so far if you're practicing these questions. Regardless, so let's go ahead and start, and let's get this thing knocked out. So question number 1 says, pick the code which shows the name of the winner's names beginning with a C and ending in N. So let's think about it. We want the name of the winners beginning with C and ending in N. See, they trick you right here and they say select name, but the column is not labeled name, it's labeled winner. So right away we can knock out these three and say it's not going to be these three. It's going to be one of these two. Well, if we remember from our previous practices, beginning with C, the percentage sign is going to come after it, meaning your character is going to be in front of the percentage sign. Well, you can see here that it's after it. So that leaves us with the last option. And if we want to double check, we say, okay, select winner from Nobel, where winner like beginning with C and winner like ending in N. Let's go down to question number 2. And we can see here that it says select the code that shows how many chemistry awards were given between 1950 and 1960. So what I want you to do is I need you to understand that we need a count of how many awards were given. That's why we're going to use the select count subject from Nobel, where subject is chemistry, and then the years are between 1950 and 1960, where we can see here that we're missing the year. So it's not going to be this one. Let's come down to the second option. We see the same thing here, but again, we can see an error because when we're doing our between constraint, it's going to be between 1950 and 1960. It's not going to be in parentheses like this. This is for a in or not in constraint. And if we come down to number 3, we can see, okay, select count subject from Nobel, where subject equals chemistry. Okay, everything is perfect so far, and year between 1950 and 1960. Looks like this is it. Let's go ahead and take a look at the other two. Select subject from Nobel, where subject equals chemistry, and year between 1950 and 1960. The problem with this is this is going to show us the subjects, but it's not going to give us the actual count. We're looking for a number. If we go down to the last option, it says again, select subject from Nobel, where subject equals chemistry and year between in parentheses. So as we mentioned before, this is not going to work. The third option is going to be our correct answer. Let's come down to question number 3, where it asks us, pick the code that shows the amount of years where no medicine awards were given. Well, let's take a look and see. The amount of years where no medicine awards were given. And this is what I was saying before, where I was saying you're going to get introduced to some queries that you're not familiar with. And this is one of those questions that shows that, because you're kind of seeing a select statement within a select statement, which if you're looking and thinking, what? Oh my God, what is he talking about? Like I mentioned before, go ahead and do this tutorial and then come back to this quiz and you'll say, oh, okay, now I know what he's talking about. But if you want to go ahead and go through this quiz with me, that's fine by me as well. So we know we want to count distinct of the year. We want to know the count, meaning the number of unique years where no medicine awards were given. If we say select count year, the problem with that is it's not going to work because you may have multiple values of this within 1 year. So select count distinct is going to give us a count of the distinct, which also in my head I say unique years from the Nobel table, where year in, and the way this works is where, remember we use the in, where in that year, what we're going to do is we're going to use a select within a select statement where we're going to say where in that year the subject that wasn't awarded was medicine. But this is going to get tricky, so I'm going to explain to you really quick what's going on. So I think the best way to explain it is to just show you which one is correct and then compare it to the other ones that are not. The second option is correct, and let me explain why. So select count distinct year, meaning we want a count of the unique years from the Nobel table where in that year the subject equaling medicine was not in it, meaning in that year we don't want the subject of medicine to be in it. And the way you do that is you say select count distinct year from Nobel where in that year there were not any medicine awards given. And then the way you do that is you say select distinct year from Nobel where subject equals medicine. This one is not going to work because this says where in that year. We don't want that. We want to say where in that year there wasn't a medicine award given. So we say not in. But in is going to say, oh, there was a medicine given. So this is not going to work. This one says not in, but okay. It says subject like. Remember, we don't say subject like. We say subject equals if we're looking for a specific string. This one says not in, okay. Select distinct year from Nobel where subject not like. Again, if we're saying not in our where clause, we don't need to say not in or not like in our select statement that's within our select. So this is not going to work either. And this one doesn't work because this is just a selective count year, which, as I mentioned before, that's not going to give us our unique years. It's just going to give us a count of years where in that year there were no awards given for the subject of medicine. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, I'm really sorry. Just try to replay it a couple times. And like I said, if you practice that select within select tutorial that's next, this will make a lot more sense to you. Let's go to question number 4. It says select the result that would be obtained from the following code. Okay, so we're provided with the code, but we're supposed to identify the result that would be correct. We know that we want to pull up the subject column and the winner column. Well, right away we can knock this out because we don't have a subject column. That leaves us with these 4. From Nobel, where winner like sir, and look, sir before the percentage sign, meaning beginning with sir. Well, we can knock this one out because these names don't start with sir. These names don't start with sir. We have just the second and the third option. And the year like 1960. Well, you can kind of disregard this one because for this question we don't have access to the year. But one thing I can tell you that will differentiate, hey, which is going to be the correct answer or not. Let's just assume that if it's this one, it's going to be the correct answer because if you look here, we have 2 names as an option rather than 1 name. Even though these 2 names are different from the second name, that's really the only thing I can catch with my eye. It would have been a lot easier if this said medicine Sir John Eccles, and then you would say, oh, well, this one is missing the second name, but they've put a separate name here. But Maybe the differentiating factor is that maybe this name is not within the 1960s, but I don't know if there's an error in the question. Maybe you can pull up the query in another window and run this, and then maybe you can differentiate the difference, but it's the third option. Just remember that we have the subject and winner, their names start with sir, and the year like 1960. So 196, meaning something with the 1960s. Let's go down to question number 5. It says select the code which would show the year where neither physics or chemistry awards were given. So again, this is going to be a little bit tricky, but I'll try my best to break down what's going on, and we'll go through this together. Again, I think the best way to do this is to show you the correct answer first and then explain why the other ones don't work. So just like the other question that we did earlier. So it says, select the code which will show the year where neither physics or chemistry awards were given. So we know we want the year column from the Nobel table, and then we want to know the year where neither physics or chemistry was awarded. So this says where subject. So right away we can say, nope, that's not going to work. Our filter is not based off our subject column. Our filter is based on our year column. So these two won't work. Well, if you come down to these other two down here, it says select year from Nobel where year not in, select subject. Nope, again, not from subject, select the year. So that's not going to work. Well, if you come down to the last option, you say, well, this looks pretty right. Select year from subject where year not in, okay. Select year from Nobel where subject in chemistry, comma, physics. And you're going, well, what's the issue here? Well, let's take a look. Select year from Nobel. This is where they trick you. Is our table called subject or is it called Nobel? It's called Nobel, which is what differentiates. That's the only difference between the third and the fifth option. Everything else is exactly the same, but they get you with that, and that's why you got to pay attention to your queries and identify that we're searching from the Nobel table and not from the subject table. This one won't work because we're not trying to look at subject. Again, subject, those are not going to be good options. Let's look at question number 6, and we can see that it says select the code which shows the years when a medicine award was given but no peace or literature award was. And right away I can tell you guys that the correct answer is going to be the third one. And let's go down and compare the other answers to the third option, and let's identify why they're not correct. Well, if we look at let's look at the correct answer first. It says select the distinct year. Okay, we know we're looking for the year from Nobel, that's our table, where the subject is medicine, but we don't want, so we're looking for a year or years where an award was given out for medicine but not for peace or literature. So we say select the distinct year, the unique years from Nobel where awards were given for the subject medicine, but in that year awards were not given for literature and awards were not given for the subject peace. And this is the way it's structured. So where subject equals medicine and year not in, what this really means is in that year the subject literature was not in it. In that year the subject peace was not in it. Select year from Nobel where subject equals literature. Let's go down to the last two options. Select distinct year from see right away they get us with the subject. That's not going to work. Same thing here. Our table is labeled Nobel, not subject, so the third option is going to be correct. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's come down to question number 7, which is going to be the last question. It says pick the result that would be obtained from the following code. Select subject and a count of each subject. So how many of each subject do we have? For the year 1960, and we want it grouped by subject. Well, right away we can see that the first option is not going to be correct. And we know that we have more subjects other than chemistry, so this is not going to be correct. And the last one is not going to be correct also because it's missing the subject of medicine. So our options are the third and the fourth, and let's compare and see which is going to be correct. Well, if you want to go ahead and run it yourself, you can run it. Just open another window, go to the select from Nobel portion of questions and run this query, and you will see that the correct answer is this. It's not going to be this. There's really no other way for me to explain to you how, but other than that, that is the correct answer. I hope that makes sense to you. Please give the video a thumbs up and a like if you have any questions for me, or if you want me to further explain any portions of this video that we went through. Please let me know. I look forward to speaking to you guys the next time. Have a great day.